For February the 14th, 2025, we talk about LOK Digital, Kiosk, MOTHERGUNSHIP, and much more. Welcome to Level 532. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm Jala Prendez.
And I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Welcome back, Dennis.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah. What were you up to?
Oh, it was a dumb scheduling thing. We're helping run an engaged couples class and needed to prep for that. So the one night all the facilitators could get together was Tuesday last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It happens. Being a grown-up is like that.
Super, super sexy adult stuff right there. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's my cover. I was actually out doing secret agent shit.
Okay. Yeah, both seem pretty important. What else have you been up to?
Oh, man. Not a ton. It is, we're getting a second coating of snow here, so I'm gearing up. Apparently, our school decided they're going to do 2 days off at the end of this week, and then Monday off as well. I think that's a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
President's Day.
Correct. Yes. And so the kids are just going to be around. So bracing for that.
Yeah.
And we're getting some snow right now, like I mentioned. So perhaps it'll be sledding time.
Ooh.
Yeah. We haven't had enough snow around here for any sledding, which is always makes me sad for the kids because sledding is important.
Do you have a bobsled? And can you teach them about cool runnings and have them do a whole bobsled team? You have enough children for this.
I think the bobsled team is 4.
That's okay. Dennis has to be in there as the adult.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Dude, I make a kick-ass anchor on a kid's bobsled team.
Mm-hmm. Fucking destroy those assholes. Yeah. Little punks.
That's like the Olympic, like, the 3 guys that aren't actually steering the sled that just like push at the front. That's like what all the O linemen from football do in their off season.
Huh.
Or all the ones that couldn't quite make it into the big leagues. They go over and just push like hell for 4 seconds and then duck and cover.
And then just say, wee.
It's like orcs with the red stripes, like the yelling wee does make it go faster.
Yeah. Well, at least let you have more fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jala, how about you?
Yeah, I'm here again. Surprising everyone again. Like I was like, hey y'all, it's Jalapalooza.
Yeah. Moxie is in the process of moving. Thank you very much for being available to come and fill in.
Yeah, so my news is that I saw the movie Companion. Go watch it. It's good.
You are the second person I've heard talk about Companion today.
Yeah, so I posted it on Blue Sky, but I said my very, very, very succinct response was, this is better than Barbie. And the reason why I say that is because it's kind of treading a little bit of the same ground that Barbie is treading, but without being a monologue and while also broadening out who it's talking about, not just women, but like a bunch of different demographics. And so it's interesting. It has this interesting mix of horror elements, like psychological horror elements. Yes, there is blood and stuff, but that's not the emphasis. Alongside the pathos and the humor elements and things. It's very well crafted. So I definitely recommend it. I am looking forward to watching it again for sure.
Nice.
One of those movies where the second watch you're going to see all these things in the first half that you didn't notice the first time? Probably.
You can appreciate a lot more of the subtleties of the acting when you go back to it again.
Yeah. I just have to decide if it's one I want to go to the theater for, because that takes a chunk out of your day that waiting for it on streaming does not.
Right. Well, this isn't like a bombastic kind of movie. So, I mean, like, it's not like, it's like Nosferatu. Like Nosferatu, I'd say, that was the one you need to watch in the theater, I feel. But like this one, I don't know. I think streaming would also be okay. It comes to streaming so fast. I mean,
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, whatever gets you to watch it.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the important
Right.
part, is watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, I will take that recommendation.
Yay.
Ben, how about you?
Not too much. Just went to a Super Bowl party over the weekend and went to a friend's dog's birthday party over the weekend.
Oh, yes.
Dogs during
What?
Okay.
Why didn't you send pictures?
I can find and send pictures.
Okay,
it's
because
just-
you do realize that most of my time on social media is looking at cute animals, right? Like, and you tell me you go to a cute animal party and you don't show me any pictures.
If you're going to do a dog birthday party, you better commit. They do 7 a year, right?
Right.
No, it's one party, but it is 7 times as big.
Right.
Okay.
to
Fair.
make it confusing, the dog was turning 7 years old. So yeah.
Middle-aged.
Yeah. And then one cool thing is they had a digital Polaroid camera there where
cool.
you take the picture, but then there's like an analog button that you turn and then the Polaroid will come out after that.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah, I've seen those. I really want one. I don't need one at all, but I like them. They're neat.
It's weird Cronenberg technology.
Nice. For me, the big thing, sorry, it's going to be work related. We got access to test a Patreon feature that I've been wanting for more than a decade.
You have been trying so hard to get them to do this, and now you've got it finally.
And I just the amount of space that is taken that had been taken up in my head with figuring out a way to deliver individual feeds for each bonus show that we do to people, and just fighting and wrangling and shopping for something else that might provide that same that functionality, to see that like pretty much the exact thing that I want is now just here for me, and all I have to do is like go in and recategorize 947 episodes of premium content to
is that all?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
I didn't state clearly what it is. So currently on Patreon, if you subscribe to us and you just want to listen to Real Itch Hours, you get a feed that has every bonus thing that we do, which doesn't make a lot of people happy. Not everybody listens to everything we make. It would be nice if they did, but I get it. We do a lot. And the way that I had it done before was a hack that required constant dealing with people who were very angry that they weren't, in their mind, getting the content that they were paying for. And I had to remind them, no, you're just not getting it in the way you want. It's still there. But that does not make somebody happy when they're mad. But just the amount of like effort in a week that went into trying to explain or solve that problem now is gonna be not a problem anymore, hopefully. So this is a really big deal.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that email come through, I was like, "Oh snap! This is the big one."
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, that is like the big thing for me. So, sorry to bring work to it, but that's just how it's got to be, I guess.
That's exciting for all the people who are patrons.
True. Yeah. And video games. Of course, video games. We have a special segment on the show, but
We should talk about this.
Yeah, we've got a regular kind of show that includes that. Well, with the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with The Grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the last period of time or so. Dennis, you've been away the longest, so I will throw to you.
I have been away the longest. I do not have an amount of content that would belie that. So bear with me. My first story is about gear. So this is the Dennis thought he could fly close to the sun and not get burned, but here we are.
Okay.
Segment. Because I was playing iRacing actually on my birthday, which happened now a week ago or so on the 5th, and I was just pressed down on the pedal and heard a crack and it fell forwards, and I went, "Oh, that's not good." And I kind of knew what was going on because I've fixed this once before. There's just a spring that had broken. I was like, no big deal. I'll pull this apart. I know what to do. Take out the screws, swap out the spring. And then as I'm trying to get the bottom plate on to reaffix it, I hear a bigger crack. And I go back in and I have not broken a spring. I have straight up snapped the plastic struts for the brake pedal clean off.
Okay.
No coming back from that. So I was like, well, shit. And I thought I was going to be just casually into iRacing, like, I'm not going to throw a ton of money at it. And
Gary.
this is
sorry, I almost called you Gary. Dennis, what the fuck did I tell you? Dennis.
Yes.
Dennis.
He bought
it's
a
one of
car
those
to
things
play
that
it in now.
everyone but the person who needs to learn the lesson knows it off the bat.
When you said it, when you said, I decided to dip into iRacing, I was like, okay, start the clock.
Yep. I made it I made it roughly 2/3 of a year, I think, before like really going all in. And I haven't really gone all in, but all I could think about was like, I gotta fix this. If I really want to race right now, I can't.
We're using that
and if
control,
I can, then it's not a big deal. But if I can't, then it's a big deal.
Were you using that to control what's your racing game? Trackmania?
No, I haven't. There are pro Trackmania players that use a wheel.
Yeah.
I've never felt it's so designed around controller that I've never felt the need to try it. But so yeah, it still had my Trackmania, but immediately started searching. I'm looking for used stuff on Craigslist and whatnot. Found someone up in Columbus that was selling the type of pedal that I wanted. So this is a blessing in disguise. Now I can upgrade. I got a load cell pedal or load cell model. I don't know what the proper term for it is, but basically instead of it just being a little torsion spring on the pedals, it's a bit more sophisticated thing that feels a bit more like actually using the brakes and is supposed to make a big difference. But paid for that plus drove the hour out and hour back.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I could not be happier with that purchase.
So it's just the pedals.
It's just new pedals, but nice ones. And it is a night and day kind of thing where before the constant problem was it's really easy to stomp on the brakes too hard, harder than you intend to. And so I was constantly like really feathering it and you can't really feel if you're having the effect you want. And so it's very easy to lock up with kind of the base model that I was working with. With these, you have so much more pressure you can put on in that kind of first little bit that I'm trying to think, the first 30% of the braking pressure is a much larger range, and then you get to pushing to actually full brake, which means that you're way better about the light touch that you need going into corners and through corners and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it just feels better. People weren't lying when they said that. And the difference though is now for the places where like you really do want to brake hard, like heavy braking zones, you have to stomp a lot harder than I've been used to. And so my constant problem before was, oh man, I broke, too hard by accident. Now it's like, no, you need to stomp on this, to have the effect you want. Which feels like it feels good. It feels fun and is, making me a better driver, I guess. But while we're at it, I got these new brakes. They're made to kind of be, you're pushing on them harder now. So they should really be bolted into like a rig or whatever. And so I like custom designed a little woodworking project that I'm working on with my in-laws now.
So you're not sitting in a roll cage.
Yeah. Not yet.
Not yet.
That's
not
actually
yet.
I hadn't thought of that. That's that's a good. I'll look into that.
You're not going to make me responsible for this.
No, this is your fault now. I just the way it's situated under my desk is a little different. than I had the original pedals, which were smaller. And so I was like, really, I should build a little platform for this. So I designed that. We're going to be making that over the next week or so. But that's a fun project in and of itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got and you were right.
Okay. That's all I wanted to hear.
I didn't mention the worst part of this. So not only did the pedals snap on my birthday, but they also snapped when the week that the like series that I'm doing was on my favorite course. So Circuit de Lebanon is my favorite track. It's the one I feel like I'm most of the time it's like I'm average to slower, than the field on Lebanon. I'm like, I know I'm good on it. And I couldn't race on it because of the broken equipment. So,
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, so I upgraded one thing. I'm sure that's going to be the last thing I upgrade. I'm fine, guys. I can stop whenever I want to, especially because I have those precision brakes now.
Yeah. So first off, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Second off, you mentioned like, okay, it is easier to break the amount that you need to. Is that because of like, is there like smart force feedback, or is it just like a stronger spring that provides resistance to it?
No, I was a little bit surprised by this. I had assumed when I heard people talking about load cell brakes that it was some kind of force feedback. Really, it's just a more intricate system of springs. That just like it's the only way I can say is that it feels much more like when I use the brake in an actual car. Okay. Whereas the old ones, it felt like a spring was pushing back at a consistent rate the entire time. This has a little bit more of that nuance to it.
Yeah, like there's a curve of the resistance over the course of the movement. Yeah,
and apparently they're able to do that all without needing to plug it in or have like a feedback system other than just the way it's mechanically set up. So
nice.
Go figure. But yeah, that's interesting. An actual force feedback brakes. I'll have to look into that.
I imagine that exists, but if you really have to step on a brake in a car, even like a standard one, you can like feel the texture of the road, as it changes the resistance. Yeah. I have no idea where the tech is. I know that there are force feedback wheels. But
I'm sure if I spend enough money on it, I can find something.
I think that the problem is, and why I made the joke like, oh, here he goes, is there's effectively no ceiling.
No, until you're actually like, owning and racing an actual car.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no ceiling on this for sure. Yeah. But it's an upgrade I am glad to have right now. I'm not no buyer's remorse or anything like that.
I mean, if you're using something enough to break it, it probably means that you replace it and get a nicer one because you used it up.
Well, that's it was I told Jen about it. I was like, so I might have another present that I want to invest in today. And she's like, I've seen how much joy that sparks for you. Totally fine. You go for it. So yes, the ranks up there in terms of gaming tech I've been enjoying. Nothing really huge to say outside of the gear on iRacing. It's fun. And I'm sure that's the last thing I'm going to buy. It's I'm happy. I got exactly what I need now.
You seem weirdly insistent on that.
So let's move on to something else before this turns into an intervention.
Okay.
I can't remember if we talked about it on the show, but that little Doom one stick shooter on mobile that I played and liked got shut down. And not just shut down in terms of like, we're not putting out updates for it anymore, but it got like completely removed.
Yeah. Just in the archival nightmare that is mobile games.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for something to scratch that itch though, and found a little game called Archero 2. So it's not Archero with a W. It's just Archero. But it's basically like that Doom game in that you are moving and the shooting kind of takes care of itself. Mm-hmm. The big twist or thing that makes this feel different is that you only shoot while you're standing still for your main attack.
Because archery.
Exactly. So you kind of move and stick and then shoot as long as you can and play this little game of chicken with all the incoming projectiles of like, can I stay still long enough to get off another shot and still get out of the way of this, whatever it is coming at me. So it's it's coded in free-to-play crap in terms of like you sign in and there's 6 billion red exclamation points that you can click to get free stuff and watch an ad to continue and all that, and whatever comes with the territory. But in terms of if you've enjoyed the little one-stick shooter games, it is a great replacement for Doom now that that's gone. So this will last me until they decide to pull Archero 2 down forever,
which will happen eventually.
Oh yeah, it happens. Comes for the best of us. Yeah. There's like one what is it? Like Puzzle Quest or something that I bought on my very first iPhone that's still going strong.
Oh, yeah. It might actually
Probably
be Puzzle Quest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, has outlasted them all, but everything else is kind of ephemeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fun little game and a nice twist on the single stick shooter mechanic. To play chicken with holding still to shoot stuff.
Yeah.
And the only other thing that I kind of dipped my toe in, and I'm so sad Moxie is not here to talk about this because they actually recommended it to me, is Mothergunship, which is the kind of roguelite shooter, arena style shooter where you are building Lego style your gun as you advance through the levels. So
this is to fit into the RoboQuest hole.
Yeah, this was a recommendation based on my affinity for RoboQuest. And sir, you are no RoboQuest, but it's still a fun time.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it's trying to do something different because you're building these outlandish weapons versus in RoboQuest working with a very fixed set of abilities, and then guns that have random modifiers on them, but you kind of know what you're looking for or what the possibility space is going into it. This one feels a lot more like a break the game style setup. Where the idea of building these guns is to get them to an outlandish point where you kind of break the game and they go crazy because of all the stuff you've bolted onto them. So
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Does where you place the things have that significant of an impact? Like I see you can put saw blades and stuff on your gun, but does it really matter?
The rule is barrels always have to be pointing forwards. But other than that, it's a pretty wide open possibility space.
Barrels always have to be facing forward. This world's a fucking prison.
Yeah, what about the thrust barrels?
Yeah, exactly. What about my rocket jump barrels? And there's seems to be a pretty wide array of stuff you can. There's lots of stuff to bolt onto the guns that is not just projectile launching things. All kinds of mods that add bounces or piercing or fire rate upgrades and all that stuff. All those kind of things that are just stats on RoboQuest guns are physical modules that you have to figure out how to slap onto the Mothergunship guns. So, and of course, the bigger you build it, the more space on your screen it takes up, and so it just gets outrageous as you go.
Yeah.
The one knock against it that I'll complain about is the amount of freaking talking that they do.
That is
ramping up.
Just so Vorpal. That is.
Yeah. It is. It's clear they are very tickled by their writing.
Yeah.
And they might be the only ones. Like, guys, I'm here to shoot things. Stop doing these jokes. Long-winded monologues to set up some random pun. And it's like, oh, that's what I've been waiting at this door to open for. Okay. All right, cool. At least let me run and gun while you're doing this. But you spend a lot of time in a hallway waiting for a door to open or waiting for someone to stop talking so a door will open.
Man, I really like waiting for that punchline. Anything that stops me from playing the game I'm sitting down to play.
Yeah, especially if you can see it coming from the beginning of the monologue. Right. Just perfection. Interesting twist on this RoboQuest genre, whatever, first-person shooter, roguelike kind of deal. Haven't spent a ton of time with it, and then, like I said, I wanna jaw back and forth with Moxie about it, so I might talk about that more on a future episode.
Yeah.
and that's me.
Looks very visually noisy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes. Well,
Everything
and
about
again,
the game
part
is
of the
loud.
fun. Yeah, part of the fun is making these just ridiculously large weapons, and seeing them get all these things bolted onto them and becoming these Frankenstein guns that take up most of your screen.
Mhm.
So there's an element of intentionality to it, versus them just completely not thinking about it. But yeah, it is very loud in all facets.
Yeah. That's all you had.
Mm-hmm.
Who has something new?
I have new stuff.
Okay, Jolly, go.
I have a week of RPG Maker games.
Okay.
So I've got 3 different titles to talk about today. So the first one is called Second Thoughts. It was developed and published by Just Morph Games in 2022. It is a short text-based psychological experiment game where you begin with 8 subjects and you have to execute one of them each day for a week with extremely limited information. So each day you're given a little bit more information about each of the subjects, including the ones that you've already killed. The first day, the first day you only have a basic profile with physical stats, their name, some basic stuff, and then just like a list of their crimes, and you have to just pick somebody to kill.
Okay.
And then as it goes on, you learn more and more about the people and all these different facts about them and all this stuff. And the point of this game is, of course, to express the many reasons why people do what they do and how in some cases what the law deems criminal would be justified morally on a personal level if you knew more about the situation. So this game took me about 2 hours to fully complete, as it cycles you through a couple of sets of subjects, basically a couple of weeks of in-game time. And anyway, Steam rates this a 7 out of 10. I would agree. This is an interesting little blurb of a game if you want to experience something like this. It feels very like itch.io to me. Just in terms of like people will put up game jam games or other short experiences on that platform. This is one of those.
This is unusual for an RPG Maker game, which usually have, you can kind of tell by looking at it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an RPG Maker game. That's part of why I picked it up. I was like, what's going on? I'm curious.
No, just the fact that it's all that it's all text. Text or line graphics.
Yeah, I picked up one of them that very much, like, it does look like an RPG Maker game. It's the last one I'll talk about. And then a couple of other ones that don't really look like RPG Maker games. So the next one is Potato Survival. And I bought this expressly. I stopped and looked at it only because of the name, Potato Survival, because last week on the show, Kole, you were talking about my taters.
Yes, yeah, they got struck by lightning, ruined the harvest.
So, because of that, I got this game, so let me tell you about it. I also sent you a copy of this game.
You did, yes, thank you.
So this was developed and published by Gustav in 2022. It's a simulation game where you play a guy who lives alone in an apartment building in the middle of the ocean.
Okay.
And you're harvesting potatoes in order to survive for 21 days. This game was inspired by the theme of isolation presented by the regularly hosted 5th One Chicken competition in Korea. I don't know what that is, but it's a Korean game. So it has a very Korean flavor to it in terms of the humor. I don't know how to really explain it as to why it feels very Korean to me, but if you know, I guess. Anyway, you have an energy meter and a focus meter. When you wake up, your first priority is to harvest and cook a potato, which you may or may not succeed at. And you can get more recipes as you unlock skills via knowledge points that you gain from watching TV and reading books. Sometimes you get sick, sometimes you feel depressed because it's raining, and this docks some points off of your different meters and things. And as you go, you also unlock other skills, like you become more proficient at digging out potatoes, or you can grow multiple pots of potatoes or whatever, different things like that. And so some of the weird random things that'll happen in this game. There are ding-dong ditchers who ring your doorbell at random, and then run away.
You're in the middle of the sea.
But you're in the middle of the sea in an apartment building by yourself, but somehow the doorbell is ringing.
Okay.
Also, there's a knowledge thief that comes and steals your knowledge points randomly if you open the door. I have not found anything positive happening when I open the door, so just an FYI.
Okay.
When you really succeed or fail, so like you can really succeed or fail at making food, and then like you either lose your potato for the day or you gain extra vitality or whatever. When you go to the bathroom to wash up, do all of your toiletries and stuff, your supervisor shows up and talks to you.
Okay.
And inspires you either by berating you and then making you love the company more or something. But like all you are is like a guy that's in an apartment building. So this is some Korean humor here.
It's being surreal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very surreal. You have a plant that if you keep watering it, it turns into a humanoid and it will talk to you. The potatoes talk to you every time. And a bunch of random events happen around the potatoes every day. One time I woke up and there was a game show host that comes out of nowhere and decides he's going to quiz you. You can be kidnapped by aliens. There's Terminator potatoes. I don't know. There's a lot of things that happen in this game.
Terminatos, please.
Yes, Terminatos. And then eventually a neighbor shows up and another building basically appears next to your building out in the middle of the ocean. And you talk to them across your balconies and then you like exchange goods. Like they'll have, like mine, for example, was a girl and she had some honey. So she gave me honey and I gave her potatoes. And then we started making up new recipes and just having fun hanging out and talking to each other. And the whole point of this game is to experience relationships amid daily existence. It's a very weird game.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's so weird. I sat down and played it all in one go. I want to say this one was probably 2 or 3 hours as well. It wasn't a super long one. Steam rates this one 9 out of 10. And yeah, it's like a very weird but memorable experience. And it's so unique. I don't really have a whole lot I can say about it other than what I've tried to outline here.
Yeah, like there's almost like a lemonade stand aspect to it with the weather modifiers and stuff. Yeah. So I mean, like, and then too, the different stuff that you can read and the different stuff that you can watch on TV also affects other events that happen as well. So I mean, there's a lot of different elements that end up happening throughout this game, and replaying it will give you like different stuff. So
it's good to see the boundaries of potato-based gaming being pushed.
Indeed.
Since Portal 2? Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of other games that Plants vs. Zombies has taters.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, it's all because you said that thing, Kole.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a thing that happened in a video game that I played.
I know. And I listened to that thing, and then I saw this, and the first thing I thought was my taters. And so I was like, okay, I'm buying this, and let me make sure it's not a bad game. Right. And then once I played it, I'm like, okay, that was very weird and interesting. I'm just going to send it. So
nice.
So that's what happened.
Yeah. What's the third one?
The third one is Nina Aquila, Legal Eagle Season 1. So this is an anime courtroom drama adventure game inspired by Ace Attorney. It's developed by Ethan Fox for Tanuki-sama Studios. The first chapter was released in 2018 with additional chapters following after that. The remake of chapters 1 through 3 released on Steam in 2021 as Season 1, and that's how I played it.
Okay.
There's also a fourth chapter listed as in production currently. I don't know. There's no release date or anything on there. It's one guy making it, so it'll happen when it happens, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's more coming.
Mm-hmm.
So this is obviously like I picked this up because it was, hey, look, it's like an Ace Attorney. Like I'm interested in this, and it has like a femme main character. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I noticed immediately and was happy to see that Nina is not a waif. She's a full-figured lady, and not in the typical anime way of being full-figured. You know what I mean? Like, she looks like more, as much as anime can look realistic, she looks more like a more realistic body type, let's say.
Yeah.
So, and I dig that. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this game is part adventure game, part Visinov. You have an overworld map of the city. You explore environments in an RPG Maker pixel sprite mode, and you have the visual novel courtroom scenes. So, unlike Ace Attorney, where you've got like that visual novel style the entire time, this one toggles between the two different modes. And of course, you hear two of my buzzwords that I like a lot. Adventure games, visual novels, and hey, I got both here. So,
there appears to be like a tactical battler, like monster battler thing in this too.
There.
Okay,
I'll get there. I'll get there. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game. This is infused with a mashup of fandoms. You've got video games and anime. You go to an anime convention in here, and you get mistaken for a cosplayer because you have an eye patch.
Okay.
There's card games. There's a whole ass Yu-Gi-Oh segment thing going on. And that's what you're talking about. You actually get to card battle as well. It's super, super simplified. It's not like it's actually playing a card game. No. Yeah. But you get to go on the holographic stage with your little critters and battle them against the other card masters who have holographic critters. It's a whole thing. Yeah. So I'm also led to believe that like I'm about halfway through. So I'm like halfway through the second chapter at this point, maybe a little bit more than that. I am led to believe that the next chapter, chapter 3, involves street racing.
Yeah, I'm seeing some racing stuff on here too. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nina herself is an adorable character who I like better than Naruhodo or Phoenix, whatever you want to call him. Her little secretary guy, Dylan, just got introduced and he's all right as well. I think I actually like him better than Maya. So it's tracking pretty well for me.
Yeah.
But your prosecutor rival, Chad Hawk, is aloof and he doesn't have as much flair as Edgeworth or anything.
Yeah.
So like he's not given as much time as Edgeworth. Like you are wandering around doing your adventure game. You are in the court for part of your time. And so like the time that you actually have him on the screen is limited. So he doesn't have a lot of
time to develop or characterization. Yeah.
Right. So I do respect that his character is more interested in upholding the law and is only secondarily worried about his ego or reputation. Because like in Phoenix Wright, you have a lot of characters who are like, my reputation above everything else. That they care about that more than anything. So I just wish that they would have more punch to him. Maybe they have more about that coming up in the next chapter or maybe in the 4th chapter. Who knows?
Yeah.
Your judge character is fun. She's kind of like a sort of Judge Judy, I think. She's kind of tough as nails, unruffled older lady who only connects to current culture through her granddaughter. And yet she has to preside over this case involving Yu-Gi-Oh people.
Involving an anime convention.
Yeah, a punk, a chunibyo. There's a chunibyo, so like if you wanted that in your life, you've got one here.
Somebody who acts like a middle schooler,
8th grader, little child. Yeah, there's very specific antics that come along with the Japanese flavoring of that. Usually, there's like say this guy, he has the typical Japanese chunibyo thing of the demon in my right arm, Raxinial or whatever. And he's just rambling about that, and you're just like, the hell. And so like the judge is just like, you are not the first demon that I have, confronted in my courtroom, and you won't be the last. Now calm yourself down and state your name. She just does not care.
Sit down and shut up.
Yeah, right. It's very good because she's wrangling all these people who are just so over the top. Like they are over the top, Danganronpa style over the top. And, or Ace Attorney over the top. I mean, same thing. Anyway, I'm really enjoying my time with it. I'm looking forward to finishing it. And then, of course, to the release of Chapter 4. Just a little side note, too. The original creator crowdfunded out in order to get updated artwork for the game. So you will notice that the character portraits are like different styles, it looks like. There's one primary art style, but then like the judge character and a couple of other characters have a different style of art to them. So I think that's because like that must have been like wherever the money ran out, they just they had something else happen and they just had a different style for those. But there's only like a couple of characters like that. But also the creator at another point posted a thing a couple of years ago asking for folks to buy the game so he could replace his office chair that he used to make the game. So like he's not banking a lot of money off this. So if this game sounds cool to you, if you like adventure games, if you like Ace Attorney or anything like that, or RPG Maker stuff in general, this is silly and fun and cute. I have been enjoying it. Definitely go pick it up. Steam rates it 9 out of 10.
How tough are the cases? Like, what kind of intuitive leaps does the detective work and contradiction finding force you to take?
So far, it's not hard because, as you go through, you're trying to pick everything apart. And if you get to the end of the statement and at the end of the witness's statement that you're trying to pick apart, and then you haven't come up with something, Nina will automatically say, is there something that X? And then she gives you a really strong hint.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not going to make you frustrated playing through it is basically how I would say it.
Okay. Seems neat.
Yeah. Play it. Never. I know.
I
got to make content. I got to tell you that we're going to do it for the level bonus.
That's the thing, right?
Let's do it for the level bonus show.
Not right now.
Sometime put it on the docket.
Yeah. Sorry to be evasive.
No, it's all good. So any other questions though about Nina Aquila Legal Eagle?
No.
No.
It's adorable.
Yeah. Full RPG Maker week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I just got a couple things. I still have Heroes of Hammerwatch, which I've been playing. That's still pretty fun experience. I haven't been able to beat a run yet, but I'm getting close. I think I'm mainly playing as a rogue class, and I think I'm upgraded to maybe level 14 or 15 now. So I can solo most of the bosses now, and I'm getting better at doing the skips. There's a optional skip on the first level where you can light 1 to 4 torches, and that determines how difficult of a battle you'll have there. Uh-huh. And if you beat that, then you can do the shortcut to go ahead. But if you don't, then you just die and have to restart the run. Yeah. So it's to kind of just gate you to make sure that you're already strong enough to get to wherever you're going. And it also rewards you with a bunch of random character upgrades and equipment, so that you're somewhat leveled for the harder level. Yeah, so that's still fun. The meta progress is fun. I'm still building up the town and everything. Yeah, and it's still fun to play as multiplayer as well, because it's you clear levels so much quicker when you're playing with friends. So yeah.
Yeah. You seemed a little bit more on the fence last time we talked about it. Seems like it warmed up.
Yeah. No, it's I think I've just steadily increased my enjoyment of the game, week over week playing it. So yeah. So I don't know. Highly recommend, I guess, if you're into those types of games, Dead Cell types games or RPG type games. So yeah, it's a good experience. But I don't have anything else to say about it other than what I've already said in the previous weeks.
Okay.
The other game I have, which is new, is LOK Digital, and this is LOK. And this is a puzzle game that came out last month.
That's embarrassing that misspelling got through to publish.
I know.
Hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
It's released under the publisher. It's called Drachneck and Friends, which is the people who did Monster Island and some other puzzle type games.
Mm-hmm. They did Sokobond.
Yeah, and then vibe wise, it's the point of it feels very similar to kind of Baba Is You, but maybe not as complicated. Mm-hmm. The premise of it is the puzzles, you're looking at a grid of white squares that have letters on them, and it's typically a convex grid. And the idea is, at the start of the game, you learn that if you spell out LOK anywhere on this grid of words, you can then it'll turn all those letters from white to black, and then you can choose another square that you can turn black. And the goal is to turn every square black on the puzzle. And so it's kind of this order of operations of what words do you make first? You can connect past, or you can travel past black squares, but not white squares. This probably all sounds like gibberish. Um,
I mean, it sounds like if a crossword was a logic puzzle.
yeah, almost like an order of operations crossword kind of. I would encourage people to play the demo, and you can just kind of see what it's like for yourself. But the rules like pretty quickly ramp up and become more complicated. So like they'll introduce new words that'll have different abilities to them, and then they'll introduce new possibly letters or characters on the map that have different abilities. And so yeah, it's just a pretty good puzzle experience, and it's not a long experience. Like you could probably beat it in like 2 to 4 hours. And there is like a progression after you beat like the game proper. If you want to beat like the worlds entirely, like there's harder puzzles, and so that part's kind of similar to like a Bob Is You type progression as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very hard game to describe, but it's made in Unity, and it's like the presentation's like pretty clean and pretty good.
Yeah,
It's,
the visual style is really cute. Those little like ink guys. Yeah,
yeah, and I think they made like a physical version of this game before this, which is why it's called like LOK Digital. Because when I like had looked it up earlier, like there's like puzzle books that like physical puzzle books that people have made, but I'm not entirely sure about that. I haven't really looked into that too deeply, but
yeah.
So anyway, a worthwhile puzzle game if you're looking for something like that.
Neat.
Cool. Yeah,
That's all I got.
I don't have questions that wouldn't be answered easier by me playing the demo.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm like just in looking at the images that Steam presents, you can see some of the ways that it gets more complicated. And I'm like, okay, what do those pictures mean?
Yeah. I can give a few examples. Like the second word you learn, it fills 2 spaces instead of 1, but they have to be spaces that are directly next to one another. You learn a word where it covers every letter of a given type. And so there's like interesting risk rewards where it's like, okay, so I'll cover up every like O, but now I can't spell this word anymore. So maybe if I spell that word first and then I can do this, then like that's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like there's good puzzle design where it's like you only have a few options of what you can do initially, but then that opens up pretty quickly to you can do a lot of different options, and eventually it needs to close back down into like doing the final things to like close everything up.
Okay.
So it is like a really pleasant like design experience as far as like playing through the puzzles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heroes of Hammerwatch 2 and LOK Digital. I have 2. Last Saturday, I streamed a game called Kiosk, and I felt fairly catfished by it, actually.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I was highly entertained by the hot dog physics.
Yeah. So it bills itself as a horror game, where you are working in a food stand. You are replacing somebody who died mysteriously, and you are making food for customers who each have, little dialogue, as they order their food. Then you make the food and give it to them. And over the course of 7 days, the story unfolds and you are led to believe that you are in a great deal of danger. I say catfished because this feels like a goofy, like physics sim that is masquerading as like a restaurant sim that feels like it wanted to be on the horror tag in order to sell. The horror stuff is very perfunctory. There's like a serial killer kind of plot going on. There are also like ghost jump scares. Like usually once a night, your like the breaker box will go off and you have to go and turn the lights back on. But it's not doesn't seem particularly interested in trying to be scary. As a physics and cooking sim, it's really entertaining. As Jala said, the hot dog physics. Each night, like new dishes are added, but that is mostly just new ingredients to handle like you do everything, like you don't place anything anywhere or you don't use an object, you throw it like straight out. And like that is, everything from like putting something on the grill. And you want to pick it up to make sure it doesn't get overcooked. You also don't want to cook stuff too early because it'll rot. But it's everything from like throwing the food to like you cut up an onion by throwing the knife at it.
Hell yeah.
And like there's nothing in the campaign mode that is like judging your efficiency or judging your how quickly you do things. Like, food can fall on the floor and it doesn't matter even if one of the customers is a health inspector and tells you so. But like you want to get these efficiencies because you want to get through it. So you end up doing things like, it doesn't make any sense for me to like pull ingredients out and like stage them at the beginning or end of a day because I can just go into the freezer / pantry, which is across the room from the grill. And I can just like throw stuff from that corner onto the grill. And then by the time I get over there, the first thing that I threw will be cooked. Right. So like that's fun and neat, but also it's pretty basic as far as these things go.
Right.
It's short and the price reflects that. I don't have any complaints about, the shortness or anything. I just feel like it's not particularly like super effective at any of the things that it's doing. And if you're looking for something that is, I think, a much more charming game that also is not very scary, but at least is much more off-putting and surreal, Arctic Eggs would be the one to go for.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't like coming on here and saying like, a small project didn't work for me. This might be the right level of scary for somebody. This might be the right level of sim for somebody. It just wasn't a match for me.
Right.
Yeah. So that's Kiosk. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Does the horror ever rise above like text that people are saying? Like, are there any like set pieces or anything like that, is it?
There are like jump scares where there's like a ghostly humanoid figure that like drops from the ceiling in front of you, or there's some like sound scares, but also the threat that is coming at you is not supernatural. Nothing kind of ties together.
Bummer.
Yeah. You gamble. Sometimes you don't always win. Yeah. The only other thing that I have been playing has been Rimworld, which has continued to be my, crawling into a hole to avoid doom scrolling game.
Right.
Yeah. So it was the first time you talked about that last week?
The first time I talked about it was like 9 years ago. When it first came out. I played it like for 8 hours straight when it came out, and I was like, oh, this is dangerous. I need to put this away.
When did this last relapse start, I guess is my question.
Last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I haven't heard about this yet.
Yeah. Are you familiar with like the basics of Rimworld, Dennis?
At a very high level.
Yeah, it's a Dwarf Fortress like, but you're making a colony on like a distant world in a sci-fi setting.
Mm-hmm. Is this available for free with like ASCII art, and then you can pay for sprites?
You're thinking of Dwarf Fortress.
Oh, right. Yes,
but it's very.
Those are different things.
Yes, they're very different things. This is also not Prison Architect, though it works on similar principles and has very similar art, though it is not made by the same person.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. No, so continuing to play the same colony. The problems with food poisoning continue, just because I keep on getting new colonists who kind of know how to cook, and that doesn't take very much to contaminate the food and make everybody just throw up everywhere. So that is a little bit of a concern. I recovered from the potato harvest that went bad because of a lightning strike. The game was feeling particularly spiteful when a thunderstorm rolled in. I had just dug up the potatoes and like waiting for my hauling, the colonist who does the hauling to come get them, and then lightning struck and it burned half of the tater harvest.
Oh no.
Things have expanded, and I've started doing some like remodeling and stuff, and also started expanding the facility. I've gone from like 5 colonists to I just got my 9th one today. One of my original colonists is a guy named Tom, who has kind of a contradictory set of skills. He is both my highest mining guy and also the highest farming guy. And those are very different things. Mining requires you to go out further into the map to mine, and food is like super important. Well, Tom's son joined. His like an escape pod crashed, and it's just like, oh, Tom's son. Oh, he had a hilarious name, but I forget it. It was like Ribbon or something. Yeah, he showed up, and he happens to be an excellent miner. So that ends up working nice. So Tom, who is getting up in age, he finally hit the age at a certain, I think it's at age 53, characters get a random medical malady. So Tom developed asthma, which means that he gets tired more quickly and requires like frequent treatment for it. So it's nice to let him stick a little bit closer to home. Trying to think of other like fun stories that are more interesting. Zombies attacked. This happened on stream. I streamed this on Friday night. There are shamblers, as what they're called, and it was a bunch of them. Like the threats in the game scale up relative to the amount of like the wealth that you have within your base. So like the more you build up, the more difficult the challenges it throws in. So like the base was just completely overtaken by zombies, and got out mostly with everybody, just kind of injured. Some people were taken out of commission, like one of my colonists was taken off of their regular duties to be like medical. But I forgot to issue the order to make my the base's dog Zoom go inside, and I had to like stage a daring rescue to get Zoom back inside the safe zone, and a zombie bit off his tail.
Oh
no,
poor Zoom, right?
Wait, do zombie bites work in this game like they do in everywhere else?
It's not contagious, no.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so the tail was bitten off, but he will not be a zombie.
There are things that
rules.
There are things that are contagious, but it's not the zombieism. I can't imagine how hard it would be if that was the case. Yeah. Yeah. So just fighting off a bunch of invasions, a lot of mad animal packs and stuff coming in, but like just slowly trying to expand without committing too many resources to doing it or spreading the workforce so far, because like you don't directly allocate work in this. Like you designate that you want something built or torn down. And each of the colonists, like you can prioritize the work that they can do. So it's like a big grid, which is like, okay, this colonist and a whole list of duties. And you say like, okay, this is high priority. This is low priority. Like this is the person who is going to do all of this kind of work because they're the best at it. And different colonists have inspiration or no, it's passion. It's passion for particular skills. So like their skill will grow in that. And so you want like well-rounded stats and well-rounded passion. So you can just like dedicate individual people to doing it. But like when your colony is real small, people are splitting duties. And so if your cook is somebody who is also your builder, you want to like really make sure you're not saying a whole bunch of building should happen, because people are going to go hungry or they'll start eating raw food and getting sick.
I just like that you are managing this as like the most passive aggressive parent, of just walking in the room and be like, gee, would be nice if someone cleaned in here.
Yeah. It's just eventually, and like there's like I have a colonist who like their best stats are combat, but you're not always fighting. But like, okay, you can designate them and say, you're going to be like the janitor and the hauler. right? Because like there's no real like logistics network or anything this like you don't even say like where stuff, you know, like, oh, this item should go here. You have like storage zones and you say what is in or out of bounds for that particular storage zone or shelf, and then you set a priority. And like if you're going to build something, you need somebody to haul the materials to where it's going to be, and you need like a free runner, somebody who is like their job is just to carry stuff. Yeah. It's a real like good game to get lost in, if I'm being honest with you.
I need to know.
Okay.
Mitchie?
I got Mitchie to renounce his title. Dennis, inadvertently last week, Mitchie, who is one of the main like researchers and doctors on the base, inadvertently got Mitchie a title within the empire that kind of rules the galaxy in this. And Mitchie has the character trait of jealous. And that doesn't play well. That doesn't play well with titles. That makes it so that like it's that trait in particular where like suddenly if they have that title, they'll start refusing to do certain kinds of work. And I was like, I have no interest in being part of this empire. Like, fuck empires. You know, that's not how we do things here. So I did manage to get him to renounce the title. So things are solid now. He's back to just doing research, which is good.
Kudos to Mitchie for his self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a real good game. I'm looking forward to getting into some of the kind of expansion stuff as I increase the sustainability and tech level of my colony. And I'm also looking at mods because there's a very robust mod scene. So
neat.
Yeah.
To what degree are you like streaming this run of the game versus are you doing a separate one for stream versus what you're playing offline, or
no, the one that I streamed on Friday, that was my colony that I was just running. I couldn't decide what I wanted to play, and I was like, I just really feel like playing Rimworld, so I didn't
colonizing and chilling.
Yeah. You know, just trying to survive, scrapping on the periphery. Yeah. But yeah, that's Rimworld. I'll continue to do little check-ins with that as notable stories come up.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and you answer it. Dennis, what is the question that you ask the nice people?
Yeah, I want to know what you've missed. So kind of a trait unique to the video game medium is it's entirely possible to just not see or have stuff go over your head or just, completely miss something on a playthrough only to find it later. So we asked people to tell us about that.
Yeah, I'll get started here with Fred, who says, it might be cheating, but playing randomizers is great for this kind of thing. I played so much Ocarina of Time and never realized there was a Bombchu store only open at night in Castletown until I started randomizing stores. All the Bombchu required puzzles always just had a chest with them there. Yeah, they're memes because I think the Bombchu vendor is either hot or very horny. Yeah. No, just, people are being normal about her on the internet. I think that's the thing. I might also be making that up.
Something open at night.
Yeah. Oh, she's like a punk pixie girl. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Jala, what does Chris say?
Chris says, Dark Souls is full of stuff like this, but I definitely completely missed Great Hollow / Ash Lake my first time through. It was so well hidden, and I think how funny it is that it is so missable. Yeah.
From is really good at this stuff, like even when the area that's hidden is not very good. I'm looking at you. What is it? Oh, something Cinder's Lake or something. No, I like Ash Lake. Ash Lake is enchanting. No, there's another. It's like Lake of Fire or something like that in Dark Souls 3. I can't even remember it. Yeah. No. But yeah, Great Hollow and Ash Lake. Don't have to go down there. There's not much to do, but boy, is it there.
Yeah, you can see it from other places in the world, right?
Yeah, you can look down at it from the catacombs. Yeah, or the Tomb of the Giants. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, very cool.
Ben, what does a novel console say?
Novel Console says, believe it or not, playing retro games on Steam Deck has shown me a ton of details in the environment I missed in my younger days, which could be possible because of the CRTV. However, the biggest thing I've noticed was how some stories and characters were completely different due to me now being able to grasp the entire story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder how many things like my kids will come back to one day and be like, oh God, that's why Dad was crying.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Bluey.
Some things like that are translation stuff too, especially if it's retro. Like, oh,
Right.
I'm picking this up and playing it, and just like, oh, this Edward didn't say or do that in Final Fantasy II, but in Final Fantasy IV, with a more faithful translation, oh, suddenly like this is way more interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis, what does Under the Deep Blue Sky say?
They say, I mean, like 90% of Elden Ring. But to answer seriously, I bounced off my first run of Dark Souls pretty hard, came back a few months later, and learned about carry capacity affecting rolling. Made a big difference in my second character.
Yeah.
Cole, why are you posting from an alt? You can just talk about it on your channel.
No, it's a universal experience. You know, you bounce off of it, and then there's just a latent period, and then it comes back and bites you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Marty says, in the original Metal Gear Solid, I'd seen a few articles about finishing, saving, and replaying using the same file to get the alternate ending, then saving and using the same file a third time to get all kinds of new items and a bunch of different stuff after getting the good ending. Spoilers, Snake wears a tuxedo. Gray Fox is colored to look like Spider-Man. If you're fast enough, you can catch Meryl in her underwear in one scene. And the end credits has the actual Metal Gear Solid theme instead of that moody stuff they play the first two times. When I went through and did this, I also made a point of playing normally the first time, murdering everyone the second time because I'd gotten the stealth suit, and then only engaging combat when necessary or mandatory the third time. Yeah, some of those don't require a second playthrough. Like you can rush to get up into the vents in the clinic or the holding cells and look down at her doing the sit-ups because Hideo Kojima games are weird.
Is she on like a behavior timer where like after a certain amount of time she gets up and goes out into the hall or something like that? Or
she knocks somebody out, and then when you come into the area, she freaks out and goes back into the cell. And when you if you rush in there at like early enough, she didn't have the chance to dress fully, and she's doing sit-ups in her underwear.
You would think that you would be able to use the time doing sit-ups to finish dressing, but
yeah,
I understand, man. You got to stick to that routine. Don't skip ab day.
Got to grind it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Jala, what does Dave say?
Dave says, so many things in the new Hitman games, like the exploding golf ball. Those games are great to compare experiences with friends.
That's what those games are for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ben, what does Aaron say?
Aaron says, it seems like every single time I come back to Earthbound, I find some kind of small detail in the story or NPC dialogue that I completely missed in previous playthroughs. There's just so much to unpack in that game.
Yeah, there's a, Clyde Mandelin, the Legends of Localization guy, there's a very good book that he wrote about the localization of Earthbound that is it is just a catalog of all of those things that like you forget were in there, and then like here's how it was presented and here's how it originally was, here's how the context changed and all that. That's a very dense and intricate game when it comes to that stuff. Yeah. Dennis, what does Sen Plus say?
Sen Plus says, I will also second Elden Ring. Since the game is so long, it probably counts that I didn't find out Torrent could double jump until 20 hours into the first playthrough.
Oh, wow. You never... Oh, that is interesting.
No shame. It is so easy to miss the mobility stuff in Dark Souls
Dennis.
type games. So it happens to anyone.
You can disclaim away, but you're never going to outrun your shame.
Can't believe that people expect that not tutorialized stuff Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah, no. You just,
oh well.
it's never going to be okay that you got all the way to Ornstein and Smo without recognizing that you can run by holding the dodge button.
I'm just tactical. That's all.
Deliberate.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Former Ham writes, I bounced off of Pillars of Eternity for years until I finally clicked with it. Now one of my faves. I spent a lot of time powering through on story mode, in quotes, and not really engaging with the intricately designed systems and world building. The unfolding of it all over time has been so fulfilling.
That sounds neat. Sounds like
It
a
does.
good experience.
It does. Yeah, I need to play those games. I hear those are really good. Jala, what does Christian say?
Christian says, I only learned that I could jump in the original Dark Souls late in the game, so it was only on revisits that I discovered there were any number of areas I'd missed because I had to jump to them. LOL.
That is much
You,
more.
you can't see it, but I threw my hands up in the air. See,
That is
vindicated.
Jumping is way less necessary in Dark Souls. In Dark Souls 1 in particular, and also like it is way less intuitive than I hold this button and I run.
Yeah, tomato, tomato.
You're not, you are not getting out of this. I realized that this happened 12 years ago. So
He's really good about running away from this conversation, though.
yeah. Never gonna run away from this. You're never gonna outrun it. Ben, what does Robinson say?
Robinson says, I think the big one for me is using weapons as items in Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah.
I had played the game at least half a dozen times before I realized you could do that, and I felt like a complete boofy. Also, I didn't realize that you could save the animals at the end of Super Metroid until a few years ago.
Oh yeah. Probably from watching a speed run, right? Yeah. I asked that. Like Robinson could answer. Probably because I'm used to talking to Devil Cakes in chat on Steam on Twitch.
What's the weapons as items thing in Final Fantasy?
So in Final Fantasy IV, items, if you press up when you're in the item screen in combat, you will see your like your main hand equip and your offhand equip, and certain weapons, and I think a couple of defense items. Like if it is like especially like a magical rod or a like healing staff or something like that, like just using it as to attack, it's real weak because they're a mage and they just bonk somebody. If you use it as an item, that like fire rod suddenly becomes a free way to cast a weaker version of a fire spell, but it's better than nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Not very well communicated. I think that I remember like learning that like in a pro tip compilation like years after release in a Game Pro, like an issue of Game Pro. Yeah.
That was in one of the Lunar games too. I don't remember if it was the original Sega CD version or the PlayStation remake, but one of those, the first game specifically has that in there that I can remember. I have not yet gotten back to the second Lunar though, so I'll have to update you about that later.
Yeah. Let's see. That was you, Dennis, reading Robinson's?
That was me.
That was Ben.
Yes.
Hey, Dennis, what does Valo say?
Valo says Elden Ring is the obvious one, but that feels like cheating. In Baldur's Gate 3, I started as Dirge for first playthrough and missed Gale entirely. Well, most of Gale, I guess. He did give me a hand at the start. Nah.
That was good. Thank you, Valo. That's clever. He's out there somewhere. Not anymore. He blew up. Finally, here we have Zem, who says, completely missed Estelle on the first Elden Ring playthrough. It's my favorite boss design in the game. Whoop. Yeah. Hidden down there at the culmination of a quest that he's not really related to at all, or it's not really related to at all. Yeah. Yeah. For me, the thing that sticks out, I love the game God Hand. Kind of like action fighting, kind of over the top, goofy game by Resident Evil 4 guy. I really enjoyed that, and I was like, man, this is like really challenging. And I got through most of it when we were playing it for WoF before I realized that certain points or whatever you got from playing very well, that you use those to upgrade your moves to make them do more damage. So I got like 2/3 of the way through doing like basic ass, just awful damage.
Wow.
Yeah. So that felt validating that I could get that far, but also I felt very dumb for not realizing that there was that whole system to it.
Yeah, it was a beat 'em up. You don't expect RPG in your beat 'em up, at least not from this era.
Right. Let's see, Jala, how about you?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like, my whole thing is that I take a long time to play video games because
This is true.
I explore everything, and I'm the one who's trying to break every damn game without actually trying to break the game. Like, I'm just exploring and looking into stuff too much.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, like, if there's something, it would be like a mechanical thing that I just don't have any interest in engaging with, or, something where random things can happen or whatever, and I just didn't go that particular route or whatever. That's more along the lines of the kind of thing that I would miss. Of course, anything that's like Easter egg or whatever, but
Yeah.
I can't really think of anything that just like really sticks out. Like, man, I can't believe I never saw that until that one time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my whole MO is I gotta go look at all the things. So
Yeah.
I sat in Dishonored looking at the little roaches because they were flat and laughing at them for like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, just looking at the graphics in this one little corner that had nothing to do with anything. So I mean, like, I'm looking at everything. Everything.
You're catching it. Yeah.
Right.
Jala is immune to this week's multiplayer.
Right.
Ben, how about you? Are you immune?
No, there's the one that I can think of is Playing the Witness, where when it first came out, I beat it like in a week and recommended it to a friend, and then he was streaming it, and I saw him in a place that I had never been before, and I was like, what? Wait a second. There's parts of this game I haven't seen yet, and so I had to go back and find that and play that.
Was it especially well hidden, or was it just a place you didn't think would have an area behind it?
It is something I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played the game that is
Gotcha.
approaching 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Baldur's Gate 3, where on my first playthrough, which I guess is still an ongoing playthrough, I just straight up automatically assumed that all these brainworm things that I was collecting were like obviously not an okay thing to use, and were just there to emphasize that brainworms were out in the world, only to find out that like, no, there is an entire system in this game for upgrading characters with brainworm that I just had never touched.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So second playthrough, an evil character, again, not finished, but definitely turning my brain into Swiss cheese.
I'm surprised because I almost said the wrong name. The Dream Guardian does not stop harassing you about upgrading yourself that way. Like, they just kind of keep insisting on it.
They keep on mentioning it, and that for me was like, oh, this is really ham-fisted storytelling that this person is actually a bad guy. Not commenting on whether I was right about that or not. But I took that as like that is why the brainworms were available. No one would actually use them. How could you be so morally bankrupt? Yada, yada, yada. So,
Yeah.
I think that Dennis needs to play Second Thoughts.
might have to.
Cool. Thank you so much for answering, everybody. Thank you, Dennis, for posting. If you want to participate in this in the future, you can go to Blue Sky, follow at thelevelpodcast.bsky.social, and watch for the prompt to go up on Monday afternoons.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games and how we feel about them. Dennis, what is the newest development in the world of speedrunning?
Yeah, so there's been a new record set in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for that final boss fight against Mike Tyson. and it is the first time that has gotten under 2 minutes. So not only is it a record, but it's a record that gets under a nice round number. Very cool. The thing that amazed me about this, beyond just the fact that they are continuing to set new records on this old game, is the amount of randomness and luck that the person was willing to endure to get this record.
The person is summoning Salt. Like, this is somebody who
Yes.
I know from doing speedrun analysis and history. Their videos are incredible. But yeah, no, like they've just like exposed the odds on the probability of these punches coming out.
It's really incredible. So the like no delay route or whatever is somewhere between a 1 in 7,000 and a 1 in 10,000 chance of occurring. And that's not counting needing to be frame perfect for all, let's see, 21 punches, and then there's some other number of 16 dodges and ducks that you need to make. And that's all 1/60th of a second tolerance. So needing to be that perfect, and still then on top of that, having a 1 in 10,000 chance of getting the pattern that you need, is just incredible. So, kudos to Summoning Salt and to the type of person that can find joy in going after this. I think it said in the article that this was over a 5-year period, that they took about 75,000 tries at this record. So
senseless.
Incredible.
I was going to ask, like, okay, will this be a 4-minute mile situation where suddenly once somebody breaks that barrier, like it becomes possible for other people, but the tool assisted run is only a second faster, and that is under ideal conditions.
Yes.
So
the real limiter is the random pattern. So you can train to get faster for the 4-minute mile. There's not like you don't have to roll a die before you start to determine how much extra time is added or whatever. So who knows? The Summoning Salt said they expect that the record will be beaten at some point. But man, it's hard to imagine that hitting again. Someone better get started on their 75,001 attempts, I guess.
It'll take a little bit. Jala, this would have been my story if you didn't already claim it. What's happening with the Video Game History Foundation?
The Video Game History Foundation has launched its digital library. So one of the highlights of the initial launch collection is a collection of documents from retired game producer Mark Flitman. Flitman worked in various levels of game production at companies such as Acclaim, Atari, Konami, Hasbro, and Midway. So you probably have played several games from that this guy was involved in. Anyway, they also have some other stuff, such as, for example, the first issue of Game Informer magazine. All of them, in fact, as a matter of fact. So, like, it's 25 terabytes of the publication's history. There's 1,500 out-of-print issues of video game magazines, full text searchable, no less, including stuff like the official Dreamcast magazine. There's more than 100 hours of raw footage from Cyan, the developers behind Myst and Riven. So I knew that you would want to see that for sure, Kole. 30 years of promotional materials, magazine clippings, memorabilia, demo discs, and much more from FromSoft. So that includes the elaborate Bloodborne press kit that was sent to reviewers. There's Activision newsletters from the early 1980s, an original recording session digitized from cassette tape of Macho Man Randy Savage speaking a bunch of iconic lines for 1993's WWF Rage in the Cage. More than 100 CDs of press materials sent to GamePro magazine between 1994 and 2004, with 600 more in the process of being scanned and archived. So they're only just getting warmed up, and they're in the process of getting this out there. So you may possibly come across a link that doesn't work yet, but they're in process of fixing everything and putting everything up. So that's because the dust hasn't settled yet. So. But super exciting stuff. Definitely go take a look at that.
Yeah. The Library of Video Game Magazines is kind of the headliner here, but like those, press kits and just like internal documentation are the real treasure here. This is
Right.
like the mother lode, and it's been fucking years in the making. Like there's a whole team at the Video Game History Foundation, but like Frank Cifaldi in particular, like it basically is a saint, like for just dedicating himself to like, we need to get as much of the stuff in one place as possible. If you're ever at a retro game convention and like the displays are there, like go check them out because it rotates. Like they have different stuff in different spots depending on where they set up. But like you can go and see like a prototype of the Nintendo PlayStation that somebody found in their attic. Like just a bunch of oddities. They're like the original plasticine models that were used in the early or for photographs in the early Nintendo Power covers. Like just absurd amounts of stuff that you would just assume it is at the bottom of a landfill. And no, it has been painstakingly preserved and found by these people who are very dedicated to the cause.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just searching for Waluigi, first character that came to mind. I find a Waluigi themed Game Workers Unite unionization poster.
Beautiful.
Yeah, from GDC. Let's see, 2019 zine. So fairly recent, but still awesome.
Yeah. Good story. Thank you for swooping that for me, Jala.
Yeah. Anytime.
Yeah. My story relates to a kind of the opposite, taking stuff down from a store, but because it deserves it. So if you've shopped in a console's online storefront recently, like anytime in the past year or so, you've probably noticed a glut of slop. Used to be asset flip stuff that kind of overtook Steam, but very particularly the Nintendo eShop is really bad. Not just with so much just spam, all these little match 3 games that have hentai in the title, but
Sure.
Don't actually have any adult content in it,
Mhm.
which I'm not saying because I'm disappointed, but just because of how artless the grift is, that
Real kiosk situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so not just obvious low effort, SEO spam kind of stuff, but things that are very actionably oh, you're trying to trick somebody into buying this game. So the example that is kind of put up in this article, kind of an expose that was done by IGN, a big report, talking to some of the publishers who do this and talking to people who are familiar with the certification process. An example that they put in is everybody knows Bennett Foddy is getting over it. Might I introduce you to the game that wants you to think it's Bennett Foddy is getting over it? Difficult climbing game. Or the one that I've seen, because I like the game and think people should play it, and also it's a small development team that did something really cool. Unpacking, game I talked about around the time it came out, the game where you're unpacking and putting stuff in its right place in a series of apartments and houses and stuff, following one person's life from childhood to young adulthood. The Nintendo eShop in particular just completely flooded with games trying to make you think that they're unpacking.
Mm-hmm.
Sony, at the very least, is taking a step. They have taken down 35 games from one particular publisher that just prolifically did this kind of stuff. Sony has not made a comment on what got them to do it, or why they did it, or if they plan to do more. But this can only be considered a good thing, I think, because it's actively scamming, and also it's pretty embarrassing that this kind of stuff is not spotted and flagged and escalated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sony's had quite the week.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sony not communicating on things.
Yeah. I don't know that I don't have anything more to say about the slop thing. It's just good that it's being fixed. We can talk about the outage. Talk about the outage, Ben.
Yeah, some things that they're doing maybe less good is, this past week there was an outage, the PSN, where it was down for 24 hours over the weekend, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And this is the longest outage they've had since 2011, when they were down for a month for a hack.
Yep.
Was
that the big credit card breach too?
I think so. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We were in college. So they've released statements saying that it wasn't a hack this time. They just kind of said very vaguely that it was an operational issue. And then I think a big question people are asking is there going to be any compensation for the day that was lost? And they ended up saying that they're giving everybody 5 free days of PSN, which sounds like a nice gift. But the article brings up a good point that if you're somebody who's a infinite PSN user or plan on renewing every year, this is no compensation for you.
Yep.
So, shrug. It doesn't seem as good as that Marvel Snap compensation I talked about a few weeks ago. Am I right, boys?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think the thing that's clear is if it were a hack, they would have probably had to communicate that, especially if there's data issues. So my read on it is it's just somebody probably pushed bad code on a Friday and then it went live and they had to try and fix it over the weekend or something like that. But anyway,
yeah, people got worked up about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that the hack from how many years ago now is still so fresh in people's minds.
Well, yeah, it was a huge it was a huge breach of credit card information, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah. But it's that kind of thing where the PlayStation Network is down for unknown reasons or whatever, and my reaction is again, when it was actually 12 years ago or whatever.
It seems like PSN is the only one that this happens to, or maybe it's the only one that's reported on, or maybe it's the only one where people notice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think people are right to be upset about it though, especially if you're not. Because, you have to pay for online services and stuff. So, it seems like they should probably refund people for the day instead of giving them 5 free days. But
yeah. Well, at least this worked out. It's worked out in time. I got into the Night Rain, the Elden Ring Night Rain network test. So I'm very excited about that.
Woo.
So hopefully it holds up. How does everybody feel about bundling it up?
Buttons.
The credit.
Thank you so much for listening to level number 532. I appreciate you taking the time. If you want to help out the network, you can back us on Patreon, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You can also leave a rating or review, tell your friends, spread the word online. It's all good. Participate in the multiplayer. Thank you everybody for responding to that.
Come hang out on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
It's less Nazis than other places in the internet.
Slightly less Nazis.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for? Jala, what's going on over at Jala's place?
Yeah, so the last episode of my show was on trauma response. Very appropriate content for the current day and age. My friend Desiree and I go through, we talk about some information from Psychology Today, talking about trauma in general, but then we also dig into the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and talk about different ways to help you resolve and push past, the different stuff that you need to heal from. So it's a very informative episode, very pertinent to these days and ages that we live in today. Highly recommend folks check that out. The next episode is going to be silly nonsense. It will be about Kindred the Embraced, the TV show from the 90s that had one season that was based on Vampire the Masquerade. Very loosely.
Extremely loosely.
Yes.
Over at Jalachan.place.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I've been Cole Ross. You can catch me on Blue Sky at Cole Ross.
I've been Dennis Furia. You can catch me on Blue Sky at Furia Games or at The Level Podcast.
Woot. I'm Jalachan in all the places that I may be found, including Jalachan.place where my episodes are.
And I've been Ben Merkel.
And stick around for some titles.
because you guys kept on having these very long titles, I'm starting to get some very long titles. So
Okay.
you're welcome. I have 4 different titles.
Okay.
2 very short ones and 2 very long ones.
All right.
I got.
Okay.
You're not going to make me responsible for this. Hot or horny.
Okay. It's never and.
And he's really good at running away from this conversation.
I only have one. It's from a listener's response, but it was I'd never heard the turn of phrase before. A complete boofy, which is a Britishism for like basically a himbo, I guess.
Huh.
Yeah. Dennis, what you got?
Got 2. I have potato-based gaming,
Okay.
which is just what I came back to when my computer came back up. So
Right.
hit well for me. And then I also have hot dog physics, which when I wrote it down, I unironically went, but have we used that as a title already? That sounds like something.
It does sound.
That's the thing. It sounds like it's been a title at least once.
There's a cadence. There's a cadence that pops up quite a bit.
Yeah. 500 episodes. Someone has to have said hot dog physics, right?
And Ben, how about you?
I just have one that wasn't said but condensed. It was potato boundaries.
Oh, pushing the boundaries of potato
The boundaries.
gaming. Yeah, the boundaries.
Pounds of
yeah.
boundaries.
I really like he's really good at running away from this conversation.
Yeah.
Fine.
We'll see if I can fit that onto the title art. Is everybody agreed?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Agreed.
It is decided.